Welcome back to another ROKK Rundown. This is a very special day for me. Usually I am the one who has to answer questions from reporters. Today, I get to flip the tables and ask two very highly esteemed reporters questions, one who I've known for years, but Jasmine Wright, who covers the White House for NOTUS, and Alex Roarty, who covers campaigns and elections for NOTUS, soon to be the star. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a couple things, but before we do, why don't you tell us a little bit about, some big things going on at NOTUS. There have been a lot of hires. You guys have been breaking a lot of news. Just kind of tell us how it's been going.
Yeah, well, we started as NOTUS in January of 2024, and we're expanding and soon to become the star, coming to you just within the next few weeks. I mean, it's really exciting because when we started NOTUS, it was a small group of reporters and editors, and the idea was to tell unique stories about power here in Washington, D.C., not just helpful to the policymakers and the important people in this town who are affecting everyday lives, but to also tell what's happening and how folks are thinking to people across the country. And we really achieved that by both our small staff of reporters, which me and Alex were a part of, and also by this idea that we're bringing in new journalists from across the country at the beginning of their reporting careers. We call them our fellows, 10 every year in September, who we teach how to do journalism and then let them go into DC to do that journalism, to really create a newsroom that reflects the way that the U.S. looks, which I think we believed was to be lacking across journalism in D.C. And so we've done that now for 2 years. And because of some developments within the D.C. reporting apparatus, we're expanding and bringing in a whole new set of reporters, about 50 people by the end of it, to really revamp the way and expand on what we've already been able to accomplish at NOTUS, soon to be the star, still telling those stories about people in a unique way, focused on power, focused on folks who are reading our paper both in Washington, in the halls of the Capitol, at the White House, across the agencies, but also for folks across the country who we are now going to be able to reach on an even better level.
Well, that's great. So, listen, there are 100 things that I could ask you, but so we're in an election year. So why don't we try to keep a little bit of this electorally focused. Alex, I'll just start with you. And
Sure.
just kind of like, listen, you're covering these these races in the House and in the Senate. What are you thinking right now? What's the mood of the country? If you had to look into your crystal ball come November, who has control of what?
I think the question right now is just how severe is the backlash going to be to President Trump, for the first 2 years of his second term in office, and I think if you look at public polling, right now it's quite severe, and it's severe enough that it puts not just the House in play, but I think the Senate in play as well. Of course, we're still about 6 months before the election. Mm-hmm. There is still time for this to change, and I think the real questions, for Democrats and Republicans, heading into the House races, for instance, is A, how much of an impact are the redistricting wars going to ultimately have on, the outcome of which party controls the majority? Right now, Republicans are looking at gaining about 6 to 10 seats through redistricting that they otherwise wouldn't have. That's a lot, and if the political environment improves, if gas prices come down a little bit, if the economy continues chugging along, I think there's a possibility that, even Democrats would concede that, this isn't a fait accompli, that Republicans could still hold a majority in the House, although I think it's clearly difficult, as it often is for a party that controls the White House in a midterm election. The Senate is a little further reach for Democrats. You're talking about having to win in places potentially like Alaska, Ohio, Texas, Iowa. These are not places that elect a lot of Democrats statewide, certainly not recently. But again, the potential situation here is that there is enough of a backlash to President Trump and his Republican allies in Congress that suddenly these areas that even voted for Trump, potentially by double digits, swing back hard for Democrats where they're at least in the game, and I think, if you had asked a lot of people a year ago, is the Senate in play, I think most people would have said no. If you ask them today, I think just about everybody would say yes. And that itself shows a lot of progress, at least for Democrats. Of course, they still have a long way to go.
Okay. So, Jasmine, I've been on both sides of this in years when I worked in the Senate, where I knew we were going to do great, and so I had all the confidence in the world. And then there were years when I'm like, I knew we weren't going to do great, but I still had all the confidence in the world. This administration has a lot of confidence right now, but what are they really thinking, behind the scenes here about how things are going, and what their prospects are?
Well, I think what you see from President Trump is what it is. He is confident. He is feeling emboldened. He is feeling empowered. The races last night, obviously dismantling Tom Massey, somebody who has been a rival for the president. Focus on Epstein and the files there, is a huge accomplishment for the president. And so he wants to expand that power. On the other side, though, you're seeing the administration trying to turn the corner from the focus on the Iran war, which, as we know, has basically sucked up all the oxygen, not just in Washington, but broken through, I think, across the country because of those high gas prices for months. The administration and folks close to President Trump always want him talking about affordability, always want him talking about the economy, always want him touting what he has done. Obviously, the Iran war and the high prices from that has taken away something that we know he used to tout a lot, which is lower gas prices, which he was able to get down. Now they're back up because of the war. And so, yes, I think you're seeing an emboldened Trump who believes that the country is with him, who believes that if he kind of just stays on the road that he's on, things could be okay. And then you're seeing an administration who wants more focus on the economy and wants more focus on things that Americans are focused on. And I'm not saying that they are on two different paths here. Obviously, the White House speaks as one very consistently. But I think if you look at folks who are talking to Trump, both outside the White House, larger Republican Party, the Hill, Congress, those people are concerned. And maybe that is perhaps more important than how people actually feel inside the White House.
Okay. Question for both of you. It is now November, January of next year, and we're divided government, whether the Democrats take the House or the Senate or have you, but let's just assume that there is divided government. Can this administration and Democrats work together to do anything for the American people?
Probably not. I think it's the honest answer. I think Democrats are going to be feeling bullish about potentially a good midterm election. They're going to want to press their advantage against Trump. I don't think there's going to be a lot of interest in cooperation. I think the president will pick up on that very quickly and himself not be really interested in cooperation. So, I hate to have any sort of doom and gloom to this, but that is, I think, my honest assessment of that situation.
Yeah, I think that if the Democrats win in November and then move forward with impeachment, you're not going to see a receptive President Trump. I mean, that's just a reality. Even if, while the question is just in the air of do Democrats move towards impeachment, you're not going to see a receptive President Trump. And also, half the Democratic Party are going to be running for president in 2028. And where is the political will to strike a deal with President Trump, somebody who the Democrats have viewed as a boogeyman for the last 10 years? I don't think you have it on either sides.
All right, the cynicism in this room is real.
We are political reporters, after all.
At ROKK Solutions, we will always pray for bipartisanship. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for watching another episode of the ROKK Rundown.